Did he work for you directly?
Never.
Who did he work for?
He's at least 5 levels below me, and I have no idea who he works for.
Did you recall that he worked for Mr. Chase?
I'm certain that he did not.
Let me mark it as exhibit.
Have you what's the last name, Lamar?
That's Amar Nehru.
Yeah, he did not.
N-E-H-R-U. This is one exhibit again. I'm sorry. Mark as exhibit 352, an email from Mr. Gates to Amar Nehru. This is one number. What did I say? No, I'm sorry. That's on the record. I think I marked the wrong document, but we'll probably get to that at some point. I apologize. So I'm going to mark it as the next exhibit, exhibit 353. I'm confused.
Okay, this one should
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's the right one. Okay. Strike what I said. I think we do have the right document. And I apologize for the confusion. Okay. Yeah, I gave you the wrong document. Let me mark as exhibit 353, the December 1st, 1996 email. And I apologize once more.
December 1st,
Yeah,
1996?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, this is something I haven't seen.
Yes, and I apologize.
353.
There were a couple of emails from Mr. Nehru, or to Mr. Nehru, and I gave you the wrong one. I don't want to ask you about that one right now. So what I want to ask you about is Exhibit 353, and this is the December 1st, 1996 email from you to Mr. Nehru. Examination has some bugs in it. Work off that one now. If you recall, I asked Mr. Nehru about December 1996 to collect for you information about Netscape revenues.
No.
Do you recall sending this email on or about December 1st, 1996 to Mr. Nehru?
No.
Do you recall receiving from Mr. Nehru the attached email dated November 27, 1996?
From time to time, we do reviews of various competitors, and at least one point in time, Netscape was one of the people that we looked at. So it doesn't surprise me, but I don't remember it specifically.
Okay. On the second page of the exhibit, which is part of Mr. Nehru's November 27, 1996 email, he talks about browsers.
What page?
Page 2.
Okay.
He identifies their sources of Netscape's revenue. He says browser revenue for the quarter amounted to $45 million, a 32% increase over the last quarter, representing 60% of total Netscape revenue. Do you have any reason to doubt the accuracy of the information reported there?
Well, I know that Mr. Nehru didn't work for Netscape, so I'm sure he didn't have access to the figures directly. If you're interested in that, you should ask Netscape.
Was this the best information you had in December 1996 as to the proportion of Netscape's revenue that was derived from the browsers?
I don't know.
Do you recall receiving any other information in this on that subject?
I might have seen an analyst report.
I see the May 1996.
Well, it says here we're 70% confident about our numbers.
Do you recall why it was in this time frame you had asked Mr. Nehru to collect this information for you?
I don't think I did. I already told you that.
You have no recollection of asking for this information?
I'm quite certain I wasn't the one who asked for the information.
Do you have any recollection as to who did?
Perhaps Steve?
Steve being Steve Ballmer.
Mm-hmm.
In your memo here, strike that, in your email here, you say, what kind of data do we have about how much software companies pay Netscape? Do you recall asking that question to Mr. Nehru in or about December 1996?
It looks like I sent him that question after he sent out one of these competitive analysis reports.
Do you recall, do you have any reason to believe you didn't ask him for this information on December 1st, 1996?
Now, wait a minute. Now, you're confusing two things. There's the information here enclosed, which I didn't ask him for,
understand.
and that's what you've been asking me about
Yes, sir.
earlier.
No.
Then there's the question here in my email. I have no idea if he ever responded to that, but that question certainly looks like came from me. But that's different than.
I understand. I'm not
Okay.
confused. Let me see if I can straighten the record out here. Your testimony, as I understand it, is you believe that in all likelihood the information initially collected by Mr. Nehru was sought by Mr. Ballmer. Is that right?
I know it wasn't. I'm pretty sure it wasn't me who asked
Correct.
for it. It'd be.
And then you got this email from Mr. Nehru, and you in turn asked him what kind of data do we have about how much software companies pay Netscape. Is that right?
That's part of the email I sent to him. It looks like yes.
Okay. Exhibit 353, in particular, Mr. Nehru's memo, says his conclusion was that the $45 million in revenue obtained that quarter by Netscape as a result of browsers. ISPs commanded the largest share at 40% of browser revenue. Did you have any reason to doubt the accuracy of that information obtained by Mr. Nehru?
Well, I'll say two things about that. First of all, he's not including when he gives that number, he's not including the primary browser revenue source, which is what was called service revenues in this report. That is taking the ad space in the browser, which is proven to be the biggest source of revenue and a significant source of revenue for browsers. He's not including that in, so that would be a rather significant change. Also, although I haven't had a chance to read his entire email, it says that his confidence in these numbers is about, what he says, 70%. So clearly, there are people at Netscape who would be 100% sure about the numbers.
Do you know what, if any, service revenue Netscape was earning from its browsers in or about the first quarter of 1996?
No, I don't.
Is Microsoft earning any service revenue on its browsers in the first quarter of 1996?
In the first quarter of 1996? No, that developed into a large business subsequently in our case.
Do you know whether Netscape was any different or not?
Well, it's a measurable business for them, and just read what I say in the mail.
Do you know how that source of revenue, strike the question. The May 1996 document. May 1996. Why don't we just take a very short break?
Time is 1:32. We are going off the record. The time is 1:47. We are going back on the record.
During the break, I checked with our people who do document productions about Exhibit 351 and asked them what these page numbers are at the bottom of the pages, and they said that we found these documents instead of archives that we went back and searched in connection with the current case. So these were documents that were actually printed out back for some other case, presumably in 1995 or something like that. And when we printed the documents, they would just page number every single page. So the documents, and then we produced the responsive documents. So pages, whatever pages are missing here, are email about any subject under the sun. And then that also tells you that whether or not we produce these stapled, they probably shouldn't be stapled. It's really individual email strings. For what it's worth.
I'd like to mark as Exhibit 354 an email from Mr. Gates to various people dated May 19, 1996, and the subject is some thoughts on Netscape.
Oh, sorry.
Is Exhibit 354 a memorandum you prepared on or about May 1996?
Looks like it is. I don't have a specific recollection.
On the second page, under the heading Netscape, you say, during this Think Week, I had a chance to play with a number of Netscape products. This reinforced the impression that I think all of us share, that Netscape is quite an impressive competitor. Do you recall what it was that led you to the conclusion that Netscape was an impressive competitor?
I think the memo speaks for itself in terms of outlining that.
Did you come to believe that their products would be popular with consumers?
That's a very vague question.
Can you answer it or not?
In its current vague form, no.
Did you come to the conclusion that Netscape had high-quality products in about this time frame?
Not all of their products, but some of them.
And which products did you believe were of high quality?
Well, the memos gets into that. I'm glad to read it.
Did you have any additional recollection as you sit here apart from just reading your memorandum?
No.
Is it your understanding that in or about this time frame, Netscape sought to generate revenue by charging money for its browser?
That's kind of a complex area because, in fact, they didn't really charge people for the browser. If you wanted to just download it and use it, they never followed up and charged anyone. So, as I show in the memo, when it's under their price, I show free.
Also, show $49.
It says $49 and free.
Right.
49 was the nominal price, which no one had any reason to pay at all.
Did you understand from Mr. Nehru and or other people at Microsoft that, in fact, Netscape was generating revenue by sales of its browser?
Nothing significant, I think, came out of that $49 offering. They had a retail value added offering at a different price, and they had some corporate licensing. But in terms of the $49, I don't know of any data that I had that would suggest that was something people were paying.
Do you have any recollection at all, as you sit here today, of receiving any data that indicated how much revenue Netscape was generating through sales of its browser at a $49 price?
Well, I know they were getting revenue from the search button and the home page hits, essentially advertising fees, and I'd seen some data about that.
Did you see any data at all with respect to how much money was being generated by sales of the browser?
I just said I saw some data about revenue they got from essentially the advertising sales.
Right. Did you recall seeing any data with respect to revenue generated from sales of the browser itself?
Is this any particular time, any particular channel?
In or about this time period, which is May of 1996?
And is the question about the $49 retail offering?
Correct.
I don't think that $49 retail offering is ever very popular. The particular memo that you've got in front of me here doesn't relate much to that. It's talking more about the different products and the Microsoft plans to have better products.
Move to strike the answer as unresponsive. Did you sit here today, Mr. Gates? Do you have any recollection of receiving data that purported to show how much, if any, revenue was being generated by Netscape through sales of its web browser at retail?
The $49 product?
Can you answer the question?
Asked and answered.
Which SKU?
The $49 product.
I don't remember any specific data, but as to that SKU, I don't think their sales were ever significant.
The next, struck that, on Bates number page 954 appears the heading Browser War. You see that? What did you mean by your use of that phrase?
I think I wasn't the one who created that phrase. I think it was a phrase that some people had used to refer to the competition in the browser space, including that between us as the provider of Windows and Netscape with Navigator.
Under the heading of your memo titled Browser War, here's the following statement, quote, "If we continue to have minimal share in browsers, a lot of our other efforts will be futile," close quote. Recall what other efforts you had in mind there?
Well, for example, our desire to get advertising revenue from the search button and the home page in the browser.
If you recall anything else you had in mind?
I don't know if Blackbird had been canceled by this point or not, but since it was a superset browser, it would have fit that category.
Anything else?
Well, MSN, our online service, because of its dependency on the Blackbird technology.
Recall any other efforts you had in mind here?
No.
You go on to say, quote, "By the end of the year, we have to get more than 25% share, so we are taken seriously," close quote. Do you recall why you came to that conclusion?
I don't remember what I was thinking at the time I wrote the memo.
Do you recall who you had in mind as taking you seriously?
At the time I wrote the memo?
Yes.
No, I don't recall.
The paragraph concludes with your statement as follows, quote, "I am very excited that we are going to incent OEMs to focus their efforts around IE. IE, I take it as a reference to Internet Explorer, is that correct?
It looks like it's referring to IE3 there.
Do you recall what it was you were going to do to incent OEMs to focus their efforts around Internet Explorer 3.0?
We did something where we encouraged them to pick up the Windows update that included the improvements in the IE technology that took us from IE2, which had been included, of course, in Windows for quite some time. In the normal course, it takes OEMs 6 to 9 months before they get updates widely available. And I think there was a plan to incent them to update their Windows bits on their machines more rapidly than normal so that users would have a chance to get IE3 on the machine instead of IE2, which although it had been a part of Windows, had not received measurable market share.
Your memo concludes with the following statement. At some point, financial-minded analysts will begin to consider how much of a revenue stream Netscape will be able to generate. Do you recall what your thinking was in noting this to the other recipients of the memo?
Well, this memo, if you look at it, it's not really about financial issues at all. It's about the good work we're doing in various software categories relative to some of the work that Netscape's doing. And I wouldn't call it a conclusion, but there's a paragraph there in the end that talks about Netscape revenue. I don't have any recollection about what I was thinking when I wrote that paragraph at this point.
Of what significance was it to you what financial analysts concluded about Netscape's revenue stream?
Netscape was a competitor of ours, and we actually pay attention to our competitors' revenue since it's a measure of the popularity of their product.